And then there we go. Okay, I'm just gonna go here. Why does it do this every time with Facebook? Facebook sucks. Live video interrupted every time I start it. All right. Hi, Facebook. Please stay live. There we go. Okay. So we're live. Let me just see. We're live here. And we're live there. Okay. There we go. So we are picking up from yesterday. We have our bolognese, which you guys should have cooked for many hours last night. I know that Sarah did. We were in touch. Amy, how did your bolognese come out?
Amazing.
Awesome. Here's mine. I just want to give you a shot of, I put pictures up on Facebook of what it looked like partway through. So you can see, as I said, the Sloppy Joe analogy, it's thick. And this is what we're looking for. This is almost perfect in my opinion. We're going to add a little pasta water when we cook it. That's part of the process, to add a little sheen. So you can add butter and pasta water later, but in my opinion, that is perfect. And then just for effect, I baked a loaf of sourdough today, and there's my loaf of sourdough bread, tartine style. I can't wait to cut into it, but I just pulled it out of the oven, so it needs to rest for about an hour.
Adam, I have to say that I really loved adding in the cured meats. Gave it like this whole other dimension in the bolognese.
Oh yeah,
it was really good.
You don't have a light to light your face, Sarah. You're like super backlit. Hard to see.
Well, yeah, I know. It's because my kitchen has windows behind.
Killing the quality of my stream. You know, all these lovely people out there in the universe watching this. Okay, so what we're going to do right now is we're going to prep to make our pasta. Your pasta should be out of the fridge and well rested. That's about you could go another day with this, but I wouldn't go much longer than that. Usually you want, about 6 hours. So we did it for almost 24 hours. So our pasta is going to be fine. We're going to make our filling right now. So the filling for the tortellini. This is the really traditional filling that is used in tortellini. As I said, if you do something different, like with cheese or otherwise, then it moves into the tortelloni in the big realm. But the traditional tortellini is it's prosciutto and mortadella and pork loin. So I've got a mixture here of prosciutto, mortadella, and pork loin. And then I'm going to add 1 egg and 125 grams of shredded Parmesan. So I did the Parmesan already in the food processor. So you might want to start with that. But I'm going to put it all in the food processor. For this, it doesn't really matter. In fact, it actually helps the food processor because you want it to be a fine texture. So it's fine to go in the food processor. You can do it in the grinder. You could also chop it by hand. Either way. So I'm going to put one large egg in with it. And I got this recipe from the school where I took the class on this. Martina is just a master, and she taught Judah and I. It's a lot of cheese, by the way. So don't be intimidated by the amount of cheese, 125 grams. It's almost like equal parts Parmesan and equal parts meat. And then you can put salt and nutmeg in there if you want. It's already going to be a little salty from the prosciutto, so I would just put, a little bit of salt. And, I forgot to take out my nutmeg. I believe I have some in here. It's not an absolute deal breaker if you don't add the nutmeg. That's a preference thing. Here's my nutmeg. So I'm just going to put a little pinch of nutmeg in there. It adds a little bit of that spice note that is nice. So can't hurt. Just a little pinch of nutmeg.
You said 125 of the Parmesan?
125 grams of Parm, yeah. And then I'm going to take the whole thing and I'm going to blend it up. I'm gonna pulse it. I don't want it to get like too overworked, but it'll come into a nice little dough. Just, I'm gonna push it down for a sec to get it all incorporated. Oh, and it smells like heaven. There's nothing like, everything should have mortadella in it. My favorite sandwich when I lived in Rome is there was a market down the street from our residence where we lived. And they used to sell these rolls that I've never seen anywhere else in the world. They're called rossetti. And rossetti are these little rose looking, it's a round roll and it almost looks like a rose on top. That's the name rossetti. And they're hollow inside. So it's got a beautiful, crispy, crackly exterior, but they wind up being hollow inside. So I used to go to the market and I would get rossetti, and then I would go to the next stall and I would get the most beautiful, freshly sliced mortadella, super, super, super thin. We would pile that on top with a little sharp provolone cheese and a little hit of olive oil. Oh, Madonna. It is, that's just heaven for me right there. All right, so I'm going to take my mixture. I'm going to put it in a bowl. This is going to be for our tortellini rolling. Now, the one thing I forgot to mention is you probably want to have Post-it notes handy to gauge the thickness of your pasta. Amy, do you have a pasta maker? Okay, good. So the pasta machine, we'll roll it out. Again, I highly recommend, and I'm not going to do it in these classes, but I highly recommend everybody Google Evan Funke, F-U-N-K-E, and his, he's actually, I have the book right there, The American Sfogliino. A Sfogliino is a pasta maker, and it's specifically somebody who rolls it by hand. And he uses this really long rolling pin called a mattarello. And there's a motion with your hands sort of done like this, where you're going like this with the mattarello and you're turning your pasta. Almost if you took what we did with the dumplings and you made it really big, that's the process of making a sfoglio, which is the dough. Other tools that I'm going to have, I don't need the parm grater because I did it by machine. You want your bench scraper, Post-it notes, a slotted spoon to be able to get your stuff out of the pasta water. And for the tagliatelle, you want tongs. So I'm going to put these over here. And then something to cut your pasta with. Now for the tagliatelle, a sharp knife is going to work for the tagliatelle. I am in love with this device. This is like my torture pasta accordion. I can change the shape of the size of the pasta that I make and roll out and cut. This is the greatest tool. So I'm probably guessing you guys don't have this, but if you're looking for treats to buy for your kitchen, when we roll out the tortellini, we're going to roll it out to 1.25 inch cuts. So I am going to measure this off to 1.25 inches. They're small, okay? 1.25 inches is not very big. So when you're doing it, you might want to have a ruler handy so you can get some uniformity in it. When we roll out our pasta, we're going for about 4 Post-it notes. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that's a little thin, but you can feel this is the texture. This is the thickness that we're looking for when we roll it out. When you do your tagliatelle, you want to go as thin as you can get it. Anywhere between 2 and 4 Post-it notes. So use 4 as your reference. I'm just making sure I have 4 here. Use 4 as your reference, but you can go even thinner for the tagliatelle. A good egg dough becomes super supple and is really well represented in a tagliatelle. Okay, so I'm taking my dough now, and I'm going to break off a piece, and we're going to start rolling. Remember, we're going to do the tortellini first. So we're going to save leftovers to make the tagliatelle. I'm going to take some flour and I'm going to dust my board, my workspace, so that it does not stick. And I'm going to keep that handy. And then I'll probably cut about 1/3 of this off. And I can just use the bench scraper. So 1/3 is going to take me to about here. And it's going to be a little tough because it's still cold. And I'm going to wrap it back up so it doesn't dry out. And I just want to use this as sort of my starter. I'm going to form it into a little disc. And then I'm going to take that disc and I'm going to start running it. So I'm pressing it down to get it fairly thin. Here, I can show you on gallery view. So about yay thick to start on the dough. And then I'm going to run it through the pasta machine. I can move this camera over here so we can, the production value here is magnificent. So let's move this over so you can have window into the pasta machine. There we go. All right, so I'm starting on 0. I have an Atlas 150 Mercado. I don't know if you guys have that. Mine goes up to 9 as the top number. My old one only went up to like 7. So it depends. What's that?
I have a rolling pin.
Oh, really? You don't have a pasta machine?
Not anymore.
Oh, do you want me to teach you how to do it?
Sure.
Okay, with a rolling pin, you want a big rolling pin. One you've got. What you're going to do is you're going to roll like we did with the dumpling dough, and you're going to push, lift, and turn. Get it into a circle, push, lift, and turn, push, lift, and turn. And you're going to keep doing that for a while. And just do the bottom half to start and get yourself into a shape. It's going to take a while. The dough is going to warm up. Keep your surface floured pretty well, and just roll. And you might start with the smaller piece only because we're going to make the tortellini, and then, or you can do the whole thing. I mean, Evan does the whole thing at once, but he's got a mozzarella, which is, you know, a 4-foot long stick. So just go one at a time and just keep turning and turning and turning. Okay? I'm doing it on the machine because I need to get this over with. Today is my son's birthday. We're going to hop on a family call. All right, so I'm going to roll this out pretty close to the finest setting. I can't believe you don't have a pasta machine, Sarah. What kind of Italian are you?
One who eats very little pasta.
Yeah, but now you've got your cup for cup. So it's all healthy now, right? Cup for cup, for those who don't know, is a flour substitute that is supposed to just emulate flour. It's kind of what Impossible Foods is doing for beef. All right, let's take a look and measure. I'm at 6 right now. I think it's still way too thick. Yeah. I'm probably going to go to 7 or 8. Thing is, Sarah, I can teach you how to do this, and then while we're okay, I'm going to go one more because that is still. So I'm going to 8. It's a super thin little guy. Oops. The good thing is that the hand-rolled pasta is more traditional, more supple. We've talked about this. Okay. That's pretty darn close. I think I'm going to go with 8. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut it into my squares.
So how many thick are we looking for?
4. So I'm just going to go right across this dough with my cutter, keeping it as straight as humanly possible. And then all the discard will be made into tagliata, which is, it literally means like bad cuts. Okay, so then I'm going to cut my square. So a tortellini is a square pasta. So I'm just going to go across like this. God, these are tiny. I forgot how tiny they are. Haven't made them in a while, but I'm excited to make them. Okay, so for those looking on that camera, you can see I've got all of these little guys. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to get rid of all the misshapen ones, the ones that are not actual squares. And these can be used as pasta for the kids. Tagliata.
Adam, how big are the squares? What's the measurement again? 1 1/4?
1 1/4 inches. And once we get these cut, okay, I've got quite a few here. Then what we do, I'm going to keep my water bottle handy. What did I do with my water bottle? I used it on my hair. Give me 1 second. Be right back.
Amy, do you have a pasta maker?
I do. I have the KitchenAid attachment.
Oh, nice.
I know, it's fancy. I like it.
So I didn't take a shower today. And Wendy Levy, good friend, who owns a company called Mixed Chicks, makes hair care products for mixed race, mixed ethnicity people. And she has a product line for people with Jufros like me. So she sent me a whole bunch of product for my birthday.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I love that.
Amy, you would love it. You've got Jufro.
Yeah, I kind of have Jufro. Thank you.
So I just went in and I spritzed and put a little of her stuff in. Okay, so here's what we do. Are you guys ready for a little dough?
Not quite, but go ahead. I can catch up.
I'm taking a tiny spoon, okay? Actually, what they do, I forgot. This is a better way, is you take it, you lay it out on your surface, and then you roll it into a very, very tiny little thread, as small as you can get it. And then what you do is you take the thread and you just break off little nubbins. Here, I'll do it, start down here, for each one. So you're gonna put a little shot of meat inside each tortellini. The speed at which they do this, you got to watch a video on this afterwards. I'm so freaking slow. And they probably chill their meat so that they can get it to be a little better manipulated, because there's no way anybody's doing this at this speed in production. But it's basically a pea-sized piece of meat, as you can see. And I'm just going to set up a bunch of these, and then I'm going to show you how to fold it. The thing to think about when you're folding it is every time that you make contact from dough to dough, you're doubling the thickness of your dough. And you want to put pressure on it and pinch it so that you bring it back down to an even thickness. And it's not doubled up, because that's the sign of a good tortellini, is one that has an even bite all the way through. the amount of cheese, I think, because they're so small and there's just a little tiny bit of meat in each side one, I think the amount of cheese and using the cured meats gives you such a punch in the mouth that the little guys pack a bit of a wallop. And that's the reasoning behind the seasoning. Ooh, that was a rhyme. All right, I'm going to finish this little roll and then I'll make them. And then right after this, I want to get some water going. So you guys might want to get your water going as well too. I know, Sarah, you're holding off, but you can make and test your tortellini. So you might just get a small pot of water going. Sarah's hosting a social distance dinner party tonight. This will make quite a bit of tortellini, and they freeze really well. Freeze them uncooked. And you know, I was thinking about this. These are pretty damn close to the Chinese dumplings that we've already made, if you hadn't noticed.
So they're quite tiny little squares, right?
Yeah, look at mine.
Well, it's hard to see from
the other camera. Did you look at the other camera?
Yeah, that looks bigger than an 1.5 inches.
No, it's 1.25 inches. All of mine are 1.25 inches square.
It does look bigger from this angle. I don't know why. Right?
Oh, okay.
So it's good to know that it's 1.25 inches.
Yeah, they're 1.25 inches. I measured the here, and you can see on here there's a ruler. They're actually smaller. These are just 1 inch, because it seems like this is 1.25 inches. So it's a little uneven, but all right. So here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take these, and if they've dried out at all, you can give them a little shot of a spritz so that they stick together. And you're going to take it and go tip to tip. Okay. So on this camera, you can see I'm going tip to tip, and you're going to give it a good pinch to seal it all the way across. Okay. Remembering you're doubling the dough. And then we're going to spin them around like this on our finger and give it a super pinch on the little guy. And this is what you're going to wind up with. That's a tortellini. Aren't they cute?
They're totally cute. So cute.
They're tiny. I mean, if you look, that's the size of a tortellini. That is a traditional tortellini.
So the amount of filling approximately, is it like a dime size?
A pea.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna set a tray up with a little flour. I'm gonna bang through these. We're gonna get into production mode. I'm gonna turn my water on to high so that by the time we're ready, we've got some boiling water. So I'm gonna toss a little flour on this, and away we go. The speed at which the ladies do this in the bakery that I learned is just mind-boggling. So pick it up, oops, pinch, 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 make sure that it's sealed, and then flip it around, and make sure you give it a good pinch, because essentially you're taking double and double and doubling it again. So it's making way, way too thick at that little pinch point. So you got to make sure that you're aggressively. A master of this will spend many months toiling and learning. And again, that's what we're looking for right there. But they almost turn out to be, and it's a lot different than a lot of the tortellini you've had here in the US. They're like being in soup like that and so small, they're almost like a little dumpling versus the big sort of pasta main course that we make a lot of here. You know, they are so precious. But man, oh Shevitz, when you taste them, and you get that hit of mortadella, and the pork, they cook very quickly in the pasta water, so you don't have to worry about them being undercooked. And you'll know when they're done, just like the dumplings that we did the other day, when they float. So let me bang out a few of these. Amy, have you started making yours yet?
No, I'm just getting my tray set up and do my first one.
And you guys have to be careful that you don't, that you pinch so that they don't split. I just had a splitter, so I don't know if you can see, but there's a little side of that came open. So I'm making sure that I give it an extra little pinch.
Yeah, I just had that same thing happen. I was going to ask you that because the dough seems maybe a little dry.
If the dough is dry, then use the water sprayer and spritz it. That's what I've been doing to all of them, because we let the dough sit overnight. It hydrated really well. So I would say that you're probably going to need a spritzer. If you don't have a spray bottle, you can use like a pastry brush and just brush the edges. Well, I'm so excited to eat these. Take me back. And again, the appropriate way to eat these is most commonly in brodo, which is broth. That's the traditional way. The second most traditional way would be in panna, so cream, butter, and a little Parmesan. You guys have any you want to show me yet?
I'll show you this one. Very good.
Let me see. It looks good. It looks cute.
It's cute. It's kind of big though after I get squashed.
Yeah, you don't want to squash it too hard. You want to basically make it the same thickness as the rest of the dough.
I'm finding that my meat mixture is really sticky on my fingers.
Yes, so is mine. You just got to, I would suggest in the future, when you have the luxury of time, I would put it in the fridge or the freezer and let it firm up. In fact, I'm going to put mine in the fridge while we're working on these. I would say that you probably need per person somewhere around at least 15 to 20 of these per person. So this is a labor of love. This is not something that you do for people who won't appreciate it. This is also a really great activity to do with a group. When we first got back from Italy 3 years ago, we had a group of people over. We had all the kids doing this. Look, we came out with varying levels of quality, but it was so much fun to have everybody in on it. And sometimes that's more important than the result. And, you know, generally speaking, you can't really screw it up that bad. Okay. Gonna finish off some of these and then we'll make our tagliatelle. So tagliatelle is pretty much just rolling out the pasta into the thinnest possible that you can get. I'm gonna go all the way to the 9 on my machine. And then we're gonna cut it by hand into 1/4-inch strips. It's different than pappardelle. It's different than tagliolini. Tagliolini is a little bit thinner than 1/4-inch, which is perfectly acceptable, but it's not the most traditional one. What was that sound?
a message on Facebook
From me?
from me, I think.
Yeah, I don't have that sound programmed on mine. It is a hot one today here in San Francisco. And for Judah's birthday, he said to me, I was like, what do you want to do? Come over for lunch. He's staying with Julie. But we were going to have lunch. And he was like, I really want Popeyes. Go figure. Teenager. With all the stuff that I cook. And he wants Popeyes.
That's horrible.
It's actually pretty tasty. So I go to figure out how we can order it, Poppy Maybell. And I go to figure out how to order it. And it turns out that they're with Grubhub. And like Grubhub is, I wrote to a friend of mine today that if delivery apps are the plague of restaurants, then Grubhub is the bubonic, because it is such an awful service. They take no accountability and no responsibility. So first of all, the technology didn't work. This is a good story while I'm rolling this out. Look, I'm in tech. I understand how tech works. And I couldn't get past adding to the cart for the past year. I haven't used them because I don't like their service, but they were the ones that delivered. And I've tried in the past, and there's some glitch with my account. Only my account. I'm absolutely certain of that because I've tried clearing out my browser. I've tried it on the app. I've tried it in multiple browsers. Everything that they could possibly recommend, I've tried to do. So it's clearly a server-side issue. So I tried to go back to them and said, look, I'd like to try to resolve this. I know it's a server-side issue. Can you please try to fix it? They put me through an hour of the same nonsense I went through last year and no response. So I said, all right, how about you do this? Just delete my account and I will use my credentials to start a new account. He's like, all right. So that's how we ended. Deleted the account. I set up a new account. I went through all that and it worked. So it was clearly a server-side issue because once I created a new account, everything was fine. So I placed the order an hour and a half in advance. And I said I was going to, it was like 11 o'clock and 12:30. And I'm tracking it and 12:30 rolls around and I'm like, it never even updated the status. And the guy, the delivery driver, it was showing he was in Bernal Heights the entire time. So I sent him a message, no response. I finally messaged their customer service and I was like, look, my kid's coming over. It's his birthday. We're trying to get Popeyes. Let me check. Spends the next 20 minutes and they're just making stuff up. They're like, he's on his way. He'll be there in 9 minutes. He'll be at your place in 15 minutes. I'm like, that's impossible. It's 30 minutes away from me, from the restaurant. So if he's 9 minutes from there, he's 40 minutes till here at least. And they're like, well, this is all we can do. So we're patient. It's almost 2 o'clock now, and it still hasn't arrived for my 12:30 time.
Oh my God, this is horrible.
And then finally, I get a message from the driver. You ready for this? This is a beauty. He says, sorry that I'm late. My Tesla got a flat and it requires a special service.
Oh my God.
So I had to wait for that. And my immediate response was, well, why didn't you cancel? Send it to somebody else who wasn't going to be 2 hours, or at least communicate it to me. Because I messaged him directly. They give you his number. So that's number one. Number two, that message is then followed by a really, really long liability waiver that was his own individual liability waiver that he created as a driver for Grubhub in the time of COVID to release his own liability for transmitting disease or something like that. And I'm thinking to myself, I ordered from an app, and this guy, this individual, wants me to sign a personal waiver of liability with him. So at that point, I'm done. I'm like, no, I'm not signing your waiver of liability. He's like, I'm an independent contractor. I'm like, I don't give a fuck who you are. I don't have a relationship with you. You come to me through Grubhub. I'm not signing a waiver of liability. So I'm like, Judah, hop in the car. And here's the fuck all of it all. It took us 11 minutes to drive to the closest Popeyes down in South San Francisco, where we popped in, lovely experience, waited in line, social distance, picked up our food and ate it in the car. In a matter of 20 minutes, we were eating. So there's a lesson there, people. These delivery apps, they seem like a convenience, but if you really add up the cost and the time, in many cases, it's easier for you to run out to the restaurant. And quite honestly, you don't know how they're handling your food. So when you go to the restaurant, you see who's touching it. I'm not saying that you're necessarily safer, but you're definitely more in the know. And Popeyes isn't a good example because Popeyes is a fucking chain, but the general gist of this is that that they're leeching money from the restaurants and making it hard for the restaurants to survive. They had to pass a law here in San Francisco temporarily to make sure that they limit their fees to 15% to the restaurants because they were gouging the restaurants and giving free fees to get consumers to buy during COVID. And that was just so wrong on so many levels. So moral of the story, if you can order directly from a restaurant, it puts a lot more money. Think about this. Restaurants, they operate on, if they're a good restaurant, a 15% margin. Okay. Your average restaurant, 10% or less. So if they're paying 15, 20, 30% as they do to some of these delivery services for the orders, they're losing money in many cases. They don't have the same overhead. It's additional revenue in that they're not dealing with the same service staff and they're not dealing with additional overhead costs like rent because they already have the place. So it can be justifiable, but generally speaking, it's not positive towards them. And any opportunity you have to support the restaurants directly, especially right now, I highly recommend that. And therein lies my diatribe. And I'm almost done my tortellini. So time is it? 4:46. Okay, we got time. You can see I've got my tray of tortellini is coming along nicely. I'm going to turn it over here to show you what it looks like. That's what you're going for. Little crowns of love. There are, I think a positive of this COVID for restaurants, if there's anything, is that they've done two things. One, they've demonstrated their need in society as heroes. Restaurants, I founded an event that raised money for public schools many years ago. We've raised over $1 million for a local school, and over the past 10 years. And it's all because of the generosity of the restaurants. I mean, my efforts in it, I conceived and coordinated it, but it was the restaurants and their generosity that allowed us to do that, because they would come free of charge at their own expense, set up and hand out amazing food and cocktails. So they've demonstrated that their generosity during this has been overwhelming. You see it everywhere. Restaurants are feeding hospital workers for no charge. They're setting up, makeshift bodegas out of the restaurant. And that was my other point, is that they're really innovative, that, you know, facing financial hardship, these warriors have been out there doing everything they can to maximize the resources that they have. I've bought flour and dry ingredients from restaurants as a result of what's going on. And it's just
they're creating full new menus to be able to order to go.
Yeah, like family style. And honestly, I hope that they keep doing that. I hope that they recognize, like, some of the top restaurants in San Francisco, you know, like Atelier Cren, or some of these 5-star places that you can't get into normally, are selling like meal kits. Nopa has a window that they're selling like make at home meal kits, and then they have daily specials, and it's beautiful. I really like the offerings. Amy, were you going to say something?
I was going to say my little local Italian place, Bella's, you know it, Adam. They're doing pickup on Saturdays, so you order in just for Saturdays, but they also are offering boxes of food for families in need. Like, oh, you need food? Come and get a box of food from us for free. Totally awesome.
There are no, you know, in my opinion, as an industry as a whole, restaurant workers are, they work for next to nothing. They're creatives, and they're doing it for the love of the food. And it's kind of like, you know, why I'm doing this. Look, this is a service that I'm just doing to try to keep people occupied. It gives me zero. It actually costs me, because I'm buying all these ingredients. And I just want to help in the way that I can, in sharing some of the knowledge that I have, you know, in dealing with people who might be bored while they're sitting at home. But yeah, there's no financial benefit to me doing this, other than I love it. And I love you guys.
I'm volunteering with an organization that just got started during COVID called Meal to Heal. And it fundraises from the community to buy meals for hospital workers, and then they partner with a restaurant to do like lunches for a hospital. And
Nice.
So it turns into, you know, a win-win if they're getting 300 to 400, or between 200 and 400, I would say, meals purchased for frontline workers, and then the restaurant can create, you know, an interesting sandwich or something, and with low enough food costs that they can make something off of it. So it's kind of a win-win. It's a great concept.
Cool. Love to hear it.
They're doing it like 5 days a week down here for tons of hospitals.
And it's amazing. I mean, you know, California has had relatively few cases of COVID. We're not an epicenter by any means, but yet these whiny fuckers in Michigan out protesting, it just blows my mind that people don't realize that we're all making sacrifices, and you don't see the same thing happening here, where people are complaining about it, because it's a social contract of sorts. We're saying we're going to take care of those that can't take care of themselves. And we're going to bite the bullet and sacrifice a lot, as much as they are, and more, because our economy is much, much, much bigger. California is the largest economy in the country and one of the largest in the world. And we're not complaining. Piddly little Michigan barely touches. All right, I'm done with these. I'm ready to roll some tagliatelle. I'm gonna put these aside. Let me show everybody on the other camera. This is what I've got so far. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32, 34, 36, 38, 41 that I've rolled so far. And my sourdough looking pretty good. Can't wait to break into it and get the crumb. See what we got. Okay, now we're gonna roll out some tagliatelle. Move this guy. Oh, how did I lose connection? Oh, we lost Amy. I don't know where Eric is. I told him 4. They were aware of it. So I can't take responsibility for whatever kind of hedonistic crap they're up to. Lounging by the pool.
So I realized that I have a feeling like I probably should have done looked up the gluten-free recipes, because my pasta is a little bit drier. So creating the tortellini is really, really challenging.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I told you yesterday, I didn't realize you were using gluten-free. You should definitely, I don't care what they say about this cup for cup. Pasta is such a tricky thing to get properly hydrated that I don't believe that you could just substitute cup for cup like they claim. It just doesn't work that way.
Well, I'm just doing little like mini ravioli. That way I don't have to.
Okay. So I'm going to roll out this to my thinnest thickness.
About the same thickness are we going for?
Thin. You want below, anywhere below 4 Post-it notes. So 4 Post-it to 2 Post-it notes, which without a pasta roller is really hard. Were you able to get it pretty thin?
Yeah. I mean,
the good thing about this dough is that it is fairly pliable.
Look at this, Adam.
Yeah.
That's pretty thin, right?
Did you measure it against Post-it notes?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's hard to tell on the screen, but that's great.
It's maybe a teeny bit thicker than 4, but just about.
I wonder what happened to Amy. I bet she ran out of battery. And she's going to want to see what's going on here. She's active. All right, I'm going to put a little flour on this because it's feeling like it's going to be a little sticky. Today's Friday, right? Yeah. Okay.
Today's also Andy Erickson's birthday.
That is true. Uh-oh. Okay, I messed up. Let me cut this off. Roll this one out separately. Yeah, super thin, beautiful.
So fast.
What's that?
So fast. It's going to take me like a half an hour to do that.
Yeah, I'll show you how. I'm going to do the final plating because I need to get to the call with Judah. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm taking the sheets of pasta and I'm making sure that they're well floured in between them so they don't stick. The flour will come off in the water at this point. And I'm stacking them on top of each other. 3 tall. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to square off the ends and ditch the pieces for the tagliatelle. And then I'm going to roll it into a little package like this. So let me do it this way. So I'm going to roll it into a little package like this. And with a sharp knife, what I'm going to do is cut off the ends here. Again, goes to the tagliatelle. And then I'm actually going to do it on a cutting board. I don't want to scar my counter. But I'm going to take it and in 1/4 inch segments. So this is about a 1/4 inch right here. And I'm just going to slice down. So I have all the way across, nice even cuts. And there I've got my tagliatelle. And then if I pick it up like this, I've got my beautiful pile of tagliatelle.
Perfect.
Okay, so now I'm going to prep for the finish. What I'm going to need is a little saute pan. And I'm going to pull my sauce off the heat. There she is. Battery run out?
Yeah, I had it plugged in and it wasn't charging. It's doing something weird. So
I just made the tagliatelle. I'll make another batch of it so you can see.
okay, cool.
So I rolled out, this is the tagliatelle right here. I'll do another quick one. I'll share this with Judah tonight or something, or I'll freeze it. It freezes pretty easily. It actually goes pretty quickly too. But I'm gonna save half of this dough because I need to make more tortellini too. So I'm gonna take a piece of dough. I'm taking a relatively small piece of dough. You can do whatever size, but just for the purpose of this, and I'm gonna press it down, flat disc, and I'm gonna go to my finest setting on the pasta machine. So I'm gonna roll it out, starting at 0, and then work it all the way down to 9. So you want to get it as thin as you can get it. This won't take but a second. And then I'll show you how to cut it. I'm sure you can get yours done pretty quickly too, right? Is that Maisie looking in there? Cutie. More delicate as it gets smaller. It can get bunched up pretty easily in the machine, so you have to be careful. The thinner it gets. And then the final 9, super thin.
So how many times do you run it through?
9 times, one on each level.
One on each level, okay.
Okay, so Aim, I've got this, and I'm just gonna cut off the tip to square it off. And I feel like this is a good size. Now, normally I would have maybe 2 or 3 of these and I'd stack them up. And then I'm just gonna fold it into a little 3-fold package. And I'm going to go with a sharp knife. I'm gonna cut 1/4 inch segments with just a very quick little motion.
Segments?
No.
And all the way across uniformly. To give me my tagliatelle. Tagliolini would simply be making it a little bit thinner. Pappardelle would be making it a lot thicker. Same process, just different thicknesses. Okay, and there I have my noodles. I can incorporate it with this batch. You just want to make sure that they didn't stick together. Sometimes if you didn't put enough flour in between them. You definitely want to flour the layers so that they don't, when you pull them apart, they're not sticking together. Okay, so these are ready to go in. I'm gonna make some tagliatelle bolognese, and I'm gonna make some tortellini. So I'm gonna start with the tagliatelle. I'm gonna use 1 portion's worth. I've got 2 portions here. I'm putting it in some salted water. Let me make sure the water is pretty well salted.
Adam, if you're not cooking it right away,
I would wait and do this right before you serve it.
Okay, even roll it out and everything?
No, I would roll it out. Just the tagliatelle, I would just put in nests with an ample flour on a baking sheet and just put it aside.
Yeah. Okay.
You can leave it out in the, as long as it's not too moist, you can leave it out. All right, so I'm going to put my first batch of this. Then I'm going to take a spoonful of the bolognese, which has gotten even darker and more beautiful. Let me show you this. As we've been cooking, see how beautiful that is? So I'm going to put the bolognese, a couple ladles full of it, into a saute pan, enough for 1 portion. Remember, don't over sauce it. Bolognese is not supposed to be a very heavily sauced pasta. So the pasta is already floating. It's pretty much ready. It goes quickly. So as soon as this pasta comes up, you can add a little butter to it. It's not uncommon at this stage. It will make it a little richer, and I advocate for that. So you might hit it with a little butter, and then you're going to toss in your noodles straight from the pot with some pasta water on them. Do not drain them. There is absolutely no need. And in fact, you're going to take a little shot of pasta water, maybe less than a 1/4 cup per portion-ish, and then get the whole thing on a high flame here and toss it around. I can go to this. So you're going to get it to cook down. The water will get absorbed in the whole thing. The butter will melt, and the whole thing will become pretty silky. At the same time, I'm going to drop in some tortellini. I'm going to drop in a portion of tortellini. I'm going to get another saute pan. And if you have brodo, you would warm up your stock. I'm going to do a little cream and Parmesan. So I'm going to take some heavy cream. And I'm going to heat that up. Some butter first, sorry. What did I do with the butter? So I'm going to hit that on here. Here's the butter. So a little butter. Tortellini are coming up. They will be floating soon. This bolognese is incorporating. It's almost done. I'm going to get a plate. Just want to make sure that the pasta water that you incorporated gets absorbed. You don't want it to be loose. Butter is almost melted. I'm going to pull the tortellini off, or the tagliatelle, and make a little nest on my plate here. And I'll hit a little spoon of it on top of that in this beautiful sauce. Oh, that smells good. And people, you've got a pro dish. I'm going to hit it with a little parm. So the first thing I'm going to show you here is the Tagliatelle Bolognese, traditional Tagliatelle Bolognese. That's what it should look like.
Gorgeous.
Fucking beautiful. Now back to here, I've got butter. I'm going to put a little bit of cream. I'm going to mix these guys up. I'm going to toss in the tortellini, which are al dente. Just going to let this cream bubble up a little bit. I'm going to do this in a bowl. And I'm going to take it off the flame and I'm going to hit it with Parmesan. Got a whole bowl full of it right here. So that doesn't scald it. Perfect. I'm going to toss in the tortellini. Oh, they look so good. I got to bring some over to Judah for his birthday. He loves these guys. And I'm going to toss these around and spoon them out. Spoon. And you will see tortellini con panna. You can hit this with a little parsley on top if you are so inclined. Definitely hit it with a little Parmesan. Doesn't have to be a big pile of it, a big bowl, but here is the tortellini con panna. As if we were in Bologna ourselves right now.
Oh my God.
Amazing.
So beautiful.
Bolognese.
So when you've done, have you done any creative things with extra filling? Because I have a ton of filling for those tortellini left over.
No, just keep making tortellini and freeze them. It's work. Hey, you want to play, you got to pay.
I was thinking of trying some sort of little meatball-y things.
Yeah, you can make meatballs with them. It's very similar to Evan Funky's meatball. What I would do is I would take the filling, I would get it really cold, and then I would bread it. So egg, flour, egg, breadcrumbs, and then I would fry them. And it would make like those pork meatballs that Evan has. I've actually done it, and it's spectacular. Make them fairly small, definitely smaller than a golf ball, somewhere between marble and a golf ball, but unbelievable. All right, I need to eat this stuff and take pictures of it and then maybe get some over to Judah. I hope you guys
Thank you, Adam.
Thank you so much. Can I ask you a really quick one question?
Of course, you can ask me as many questions as you'd like. Number one student.
How long is the pasta in the boiling water?
Till it's done.
Okay.
Seriously, taste it.
Just a couple of minutes.
Or less. You want to taste it and you want to see that it has a bit of a bite, al dente.
Okay.
All right, guys. Love everybody. Love you out there in the.
Love you so much. Thank you so much.
No worries.
Judah, tell him happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Judah.
I will. Bye, guys.
Bye.